27号，匈牙利外交与对外经济部部长西雅尔多彼得率团出席了在天津举行的夏季达沃斯。此后，西雅尔多飞抵深圳参访新能源企业。时隔4年，他再次接受深圳卫视专访。匈牙利被称作最西边的东方国家和最东边的西方国家，面临着美国的压力，但毫不屈服。由于仗义直言，西雅尔多也经常出现在中国的舆论场中。 那么他对这趟中国之行有何感悟？对中欧关系有何见解？对俄乌冲突又有何观察？来看专访。
Because I know in Hungary there is a opening to the East policy, right? Do you think it's highly compatible with China's Belt and Road Initiative?
Although we very clearly belong to Western integrations when it comes to military defense, economy, political integration, so European Union and NATO. But we do have to be realistic, and we do have to understand that we have to have a effective outreach to the East. We prove to be right. I mean, China has now a higher share when it comes to global GDP than the European Union, which has never been the case before. When it comes to labor force, when it comes to financial assets, obviously the Eastern companies are more, let's say, successful or more effective. So therefore, the One Belt, One Road initiative and our East opening towards the East policy coincide pretty well. They strengthen each other. Therefore, we would like to be like a bridge for the East-West cooperation, East-West sharing of labor, China-Europe cooperation, China-Europe investment and economic ties.
自2014年就任匈牙利外交与对外经济部部长以来，西雅尔多一直大力推动对华关系向前行，对一些国家的胁迫、抹黑言行。 西雅尔多也多次据理力争、仗义直言。2019年2月，在与时任美国国务卿蓬佩奥的联合记者会上，面对蓬佩奥挑唆中匈关系的言论，西雅尔多当面反驳说：“如果把时间花在干涉他国内政上，这世界并不会变得更好。”他还直言不讳地表示，美方的说法非常虚伪。
United States is a friend and an ally, but it's impossible, to follow and copy them on all issues. Why would we? The Americans represent American interest, which is fine, and we Europeans should represent European interest. I give you one example. As an economic response to the situation created by the war in Ukraine, the American administration has passed the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, gives a priority in a totally shameless way to American companies countering the European companies. So the Americans have found an economic answer to the war, which is good and favorable from the perspective of all American companies. Now, we Europeans, while the American administration prioritizes the American companies against the European companies, so the European companies are losing a lot of competitiveness, unfortunately, because of the not sovereign decision-making procedure of the European Union.
I noticed that some U.S. media just label the Hungarian government as like pro-China or something. They're always labeling.
Yeah, labeling, judging, criticizing, lecturing. I mean, these are all in the toolkit of international liberal media. Unfortunately, we have to live with that. But we should not be hindered by this labeling from serving our own national interest. Because we have to understand we should not satisfy the expectations of the international liberal mainstream. We should satisfy the expectation of our own people.
So that's the reason why the Hungary opposed sanctions against Russia in EU, right?
Well, we have more reasons for that. First, that we cannot recall any sanction policy which would have been successful. This is number one. Number two, factually speaking, these sanctions are more harmful to the European companies than to the Russian economy. Third, that we Hungarians want peace. We are in the neighborhood of the war. The negative impacts of the war are extremely serious on us, economically speaking, socially speaking. So we want peace as soon as possible, and we do believe that concentrating on creating peace would be much more useful than just digging into the sanctions.
截至目前，欧盟已经发起了11轮对俄制裁，但匈牙利认为，欧盟对俄罗斯的制裁并不成功，不但没有促进和平的到来，还损害了包括匈牙利在内的欧洲国家的利益。
If I recall my memories during the discussion about the first sanction package, I clearly remember the arguments. The arguments were that the sanctions will bring Russia on its knees, economically speaking, so Russia will not be able to continue the war, so the war will be over. Now what happens, 10 packages after the first package and 1 year and or almost 1.5 years since the war has broken out, Russia might have been confronted with economic challenges because of the sanctions, but they are definitely not on their knees. And the war is not coming closer, I mean, the situation is not coming closer to peace, but going towards the war. So these two targets, which have been attached to the introduction of the sanctions, failed. So therefore, why should we continue? So I think in a normal way of thinking, if you try something 10 times and it doesn't work out, do not try it 11th time.
So regarding to the Ukrainian crisis, China has already issued a document on political settlement. So what's Hungary's opinion on China's peace plan?
Well, we support it. We support it because it's about peace. We are happy that it exists, and it's about peace because there are hardly any other peace plans. And we do hope that this peace plan will be on the agenda of the relevant international organizations and institutions. I mean, ceasefire has a limited chance until the Americans continue to equip the Ukrainian army with additional weaponry. We do not take part in delivering weapons to Ukraine. We are the only country in NATO which does not deliver weapons to Ukraine. We will not deliver weapons at all, because we do believe that delivering weapons just contributes to the prolongation of the war and brings a big bunch of risk of escalation, which we definitely do not want. So ceasefire should be very important to take place as soon as possible, and then peace